Okay, let's see. So we're gonna get started with what we had last time. I commented these two um, comments here. We're gonna be working with data types today, and we're gonna go over what they are and what use cases you could have for them. So let's start with integers. I don't want to do variables. Let's look at integers. Integers are going to be your numbers. Let's drop that down. Then we're going to have our. So when would you use just a regular number? So I would use a regular number whenever you're taking someone's well, obviously their telephone number, their age, so their date of birth. You got to learn how to format that, but you can set your format for it in your function. That's later, a long time from now in this chain. What else could you use it for? Anything where you want just a group of numbers is going to be set up for your integers. So the next one, and that's GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot is still turned on for this. Next one is float. So float are other kinds of numbers, and they're going to be decimal numbers. So if you're doing scientific notation or something like that, where you need that decimal in orders of precision, you're going to use a float. An example would be if, well, anything you want to be precise with. So if you're trying to do rainfall in a given area, it's very unlikely you're going to get a integer, like just a flat number. More than likely you're going to have some fraction of a number, and floats are going to be another way for you to continue on to keep real-time data and precise data. Same thing, like if you're taking, so any scientific notation that you would be working with, temperature, rainfall, population, anything like that, where you're taking data over time, is going to be best. It's going to be best to use a float rather than an integer, because you lose a lot whenever you don't have that decimal, and you lose a lot very quickly, depending on how often you enter data into the system. Oh wait, no, that's decimals. Or floats rather, floats and decimals. So then we have double. So yeah, it says here double is a big decimal. So it's gonna a double is whenever you want extra precision versus your typical decimal number. So when you are losing float, the reason you were using float is because you didn't want to lose that precision from your integer. Double is the same way, is equal to that. If you want to keep more of your data accurate, you'll use a double rather than a float, because you carry on those orders of precision. I would say just stay with float. Whenever you're looking at this kind of stuff, and whenever you're wanting to keep your data smaller, in every engineering class I ever took, we go to 2 levels of precision. You can go far beyond that if you want. Examples of that is in 3D graphics, or whenever you're doing 3D design for printing, or for sending it off to a machinist or something like that, you might use a double. You might use a float. But whenever you're talking about this kind of programming, usually I would just stay with a float. It's much easier to maintain. So then it brings up char, or character values. So they're going to be, as it states there, all of your letters. So if you want them to just put in a single letter for whatever you would be using it for, I actually don't know a reason to have just char. Most of what I've worked with were strings, which is our next thing. So let's drop down there for strings. So strings are going to be a group of words. So if you were if you were building a front end for a site, or if you were trying to move data over to something from a front end site to your database, and you have their credentials built in, most of it's going to be strings. So you can even run your numbers as strings too. So an example of that is the way that we use dates in some databases that I've worked in. We'll have it where it's two numbers, a dash, a 3-letter month, a dash, and then the year. And that would be considered a string. Versus having all that together as a number and having to format it on. Formatting is not. We're not talking about formatting yet. But strings are very important. They're probably your most common. Strings and floats, I would say, are your most common data types. And maybe integers as well. So just trying to build and bring in that comment from the strings, but that's not what we want to look at. What we want to look at is Boolean. So Boolean is either yes, no. Anytime you have a yes, no question, you're going to write a function with your Boolean algebra in order to bring that true. So if you were going to say, is the light on or off? Let's say you're building an embedded system, and you want to know if, in order to conserve energy, since it's an embedded system on a battery source, you want to know if the system should be turned on or off. So let's say you had a motion sensor, and then that motion sensor checks for any movement activity on a 30-second timer. So every 30 seconds, that motion sensor puts out the pulse, and there's not been in your own and it sends out the pulse. There's no movement, so it told it that there was no movement. Keep all the other more energy dense things off, like the camera, the speakers, the other sensors that would tell about a person or a thing, or and that's coming from a security perspective. So if you're have your camera set up in your security system, if there's not been anybody in that area, it doesn't have to start that camera. Then let's say that there was movement, and it's going to turn that Boolean to true. Then that is going to start all the chain of events that happen in that software in order to catch whoever or whatever is in that area that caused the sensor to go off. Let's see here. How much time do we have? That's pretty much 10 minutes. I think next time we will start with just a little bit of a front end of how to take this information in. And if you want to go ahead and start playing with that, let's do a short deal here. Let's say, let's change this one here. We're going to change it, and we're going to say, what is your, if I can spell, first name? Question mark. So as we've done before, these might break it, but that's okay. It's good for you to see that part too. Because whenever you're writing code, programming anything, things are going to break all the time. It's normal. You're very seldom going to get it on the first try. Make peace with that and move on. Let's see if it breaks it. Let's see. It didn't break it. That disappoints me. Thought you were going to get to see that part. So now we have hello world, and then we changed our hi mom to what is your first name. So we're going to see out that first name. Now we're going to go in here and we're going to cin equal word. And that's going to change so it wants to say hello, you whatever your name is. So let's go ahead and do that, because it, you know, we're just having fun here. So and letting you know how easy it is to get started with this kind of thing. At first it seems so intimidating, but as you continue to work with the system, you work with the language, you know, learning syntax and that kind of thing, it's going to get a lot easier for you. Don't be too intimidated, but we will run this and see if it works. So we're going to go to debug, then we're going to start our debugger. See what it comes up. Okay, and it says hello world, what is your first name? And you see this blinking cursor, and then my name is Lance, and then I'm going to press enter, and then it says hello Lance. And that's kind of what we want to work with, and what we're going to continue to build off of. Well, hope you enjoyed. This is there again, this is not something you should be intimidated by. If you're not doing this at your job, it doesn't matter. You can break it however you want to, as many times as you want to. No one's going to care. No one's going to know. And this is where you just practice. I want to break it to see if to show you the benefits of having an IDE like this. So let's go here to 1. So if you see 1 correlates, it highlights this and correlates to these places. Now let's do that. See how it has this red squiggly line under it? That's going to break our program. And we're going to go back up here. We're going to start the debugger. And bam, doesn't work. There were build errors. Oh no. Would you like to continue and run the last successful build? No, because we know what's broken already. But I wanted to show you this part so you can, if you wanted to go past whatever this video is, you can do that, and show you the process. So down here at the bottom, you got 2 errors. So you got identifier word 1 is undefined, word 1 undeclared identifier. So here we have, as we said, these 3 correlated to one another. Now let's put a 1 on there, and now these 2 are correlated, and in order to do this, we go here, and now the 3 of them are highlighted in blue, which means they have correlation. And then we're going to go here, we're going to start our debugger, and then hello world, what is your name? My name is Lance. Press enter, hello Lance, and it worked as intended. And that's a little bit that you can work with and build off of. So there again, if you're building your front end for your server or whatever, these are the steps and the data types that you work with in order to move them over to that server. Change this string, change this word here, first name, last name, password 1, password 2, blah blah blah. And that's how you build it. Anyway, hope you thought that was useful, and I'll try to continue this to see what we can build with it, whatever kind of comes to my mind, unless someone tells me. Cause you can always do that. You can kind of describe what you think this should be built towards, and then we can work from there. Because why not? It's a learning experience.